James Small wasn't just a rugby player, he was a force. Every time he touched the ball, he would make you hold your breath. The kind of man who ignited a fiery spirit of passion and excitement, not only in players and teammates and fans alike, but even in his opponents. I've got some very exciting news to share with you today. There's a brand new book coming out. It's called No Rules, The James Small Story. It's more than just a biography. It dives deeply into this man's life and career as a famous Springbok rugby player. And you will be getting a front row seat as we not only dive deep, but also try to uncover the man behind James Small, if we can put it that way. We're talking about a man who epitomized resilience, grit, determination, power, and passion. And that is what you can expect in this episode. So firstly, let me tell you that the link to the book is in the description area below. You can access that right now. It'll take you to the website where you can pre-order the book. It's not available just yet, not immediately, but you can pre-order it. The word that I've received is that they plan to print in March. So you can pre-order now, and there will only be a limited amount of copies. So don't say, I'll do it later. Now is the time to act and get yourself that copy of the James Small book, No Rules. However, if you are one of my Patreons, I am going to be giving away a certain number of those books for free, but you have to be a patron. So down there in the comment section or in the description area, you will see a link to my Patreon page. And if you go there, you will have the opportunity to sign up as a patron. It starts from as little as $5 per month. And if you are one of my patrons, I will be giving away a few copies of the James Small book. So I strongly suggest that you sign up. Now, the book will be full of anecdotes and personal stories from James's teammates, as well as other people who knew him well, including Japie Mulder, who shares quite an hilarious story about how he had well-worn boots, and James looked at them and said, "There's no ways that you are playing in those," although he used more colourful language, and James then gave him a pair of his own boots, which was a really, really nice touch. Just showed what a great heart the man had. There's also a funny story about James shouting and swearing at Johan Ackerman during a Springbok match, believe it or not. And in the lift at the hotel afterwards, let's just say that Ackerman attempted to get even with James, and it actually ends with James in tears. Another great story. Now remember, James made his name playing for the old Transvaal, as well as Natal, who then later became the Sharks. He also turned out for Western Province and the Stormers briefly, before returning to Johannesburg with the Golden Lions. It was a memorable career. Springbok fans obviously love this man, but at a provincial level, James was able to win the Currie Cup 3 years in a row, 1995 and 96 with the Sharks, and then in 1997 with Western Province. And if I may share a personal story with you here, I want to tell you something. James Small was my favorite Springbok in those days. He was my hero. And you can just imagine how excited 13-year-old me was in 97 at the beginning of the year when I found out that James was coming to Western Province. And then to put the cherry on top of the cake, together with men like Dick Muir and Harry Viljoen, the Currie Cup was brought back to Newlands for the first time in 8 years. It was a memorable occasion. And just before, and I know some of you are going to try and be clever here, just before you want to tell me about Helgard Miller's pass to Jan Harm van Wyk that led to a try for the Free State Cheetahs in that final, I've had a look at that match again, several times actually. I've watched the replays. The pass was indeed forward. However, I will say this, it wasn't massively forward. And I think you have to give credit to the referee on the day. I think it was Andre Watson, who looked at that and adjudged it to be forward. When you factor in that there were no TMOs in those days, and as I say, it was a forward pass, but it wasn't massively forward. That's really, really excellent refereeing. And I think those of us who are inclined towards the blue and white hoops are eternally grateful that Watson spotted that mistake. So let me tell you a little bit more about my journey and how I came to become a big James Small fan. So let's go back to 1992 when the Springboks returned to international rugby. My favorite player in those days was Dani Gerber. He was my first Springbok hero. But he retired after 1992, and there I was, a young boy, loving rugby, loving the Springboks, but without a favourite, without a hero. And you will know, when you are 9, 10 years old, it's a problem when you don't have a favourite. Well, turns out we soon played 2 tests against France. The second one was a 1-point defeat at Ellis Park, but James Small scored a memorable try. If you remember watching that match and can recall the commentary, Bill McLaren, the famous Scotsman, was actually the commentator that day for Mnet Supersport, as it was still called in those days, and he observed how James had scored a try being on the wrong wing, because of course James was a right wing and he scored the try on the left-hand side of the field. The next test that we played was a famous upset win against the world champions at the time, Australia, the Wallabies in Sydney. We beat them 19-12. James scored 2 tries that night, and I can say that the France match and the Australia match, the combination of those two and the performance on the part of James and all those tries that he scored, I was hooked. He was now my favourite player. And I think there were so many special memories, all the tries. And yes, he wasn't as prolific towards the end of his career, but I was really, really delighted for him when in 1997 he was able to score what was his 20th try for the Springboks. And at the time, that was the national record. No one had scored more tries than that. And interestingly enough, it was Dani Gerber's record that Small overtook that day at Murrayfield. And I think it's fair to say that we are all very, very grateful to Percy Montgomery for making that pass. If Percy hadn't passed to James in open space, and don't forget Percy was unmarked as well, he could have just trotted through for the try himself, I think a lot of people would have been very unhappy with Percy. And then perhaps one of the more memorable moments in James's career was that 1995 Rugby World Cup final when he was tasked with marking Jonah Lomu. Not only did he do it with aplomb, but I think perhaps more memorable was that final haircut that he had. It was a bit of a crew cut, wasn't it? And I think that in itself proved to be quite intimidating. Now, off the field, James obviously had something of a colourful career as well. There were all sorts of moments, I suppose you might call them controversial, nightclubs and all sorts of other things. But I won't lie to you, me at the time, being 10, 11, 12, around that age, I didn't care. My attitude was, whatever. I was just interested in what James did on the field. And you know what, I can tell you, even to this day, I'm still more interested in what players do on the field rather than off the field. And I know a lot of them do a lot of really good work with their foundations and that sort of thing. And that's great. I really do admire that. But that's not why I like them or why I support them. It really isn't. And I think unless you're doing things that are truly abominable off the field, I don't really care what you do outside of the game. I'm interested in what you do on the field. And James on the field was nothing short of being a hero. And I have no doubt that fans at Ellis Park, the Shark Tank, and Newlands, or these days the Cape Town Stadium, or DHL as they call it, will be very much in agreement with what I've just had to say. James brought us all so much joy. And as mentioned, 3 Currie Cup titles in a row. Do you know that there are a lot of Springbok players who have never won the Currie Cup? And I happen to know that there are a lot of them who feel a little bit uneasy about that. I can give you one example. My favourite Springbok of all time, Skalk Burger, he never won the Currie Cup. Quite unreal. Now, it is true that Province did win the Currie Cup during his time as a player, but he had already moved. I think he was at Saracens at the time when Province won the Currie Cup. But sad that he didn't get to lift that famous trophy. But it is what it is. So again, no rules. The James Small story, it's available for pre-order. Again, the link is in the description area below. It costs 960 Rand. And as I say, you might not have to pay that. All you can do is sign up as a patron. Head on over to my Patreon page. Again, the link is also in the description area below. And it starts from as little as $5 per month. You're welcome to give me a bit more. By the way, guys, just in terms of my Patreon page, what I'm trying to do is collect funds, save up, And what I want to do is use that money to go to Australia in 2027 and provide you with daily coverage from the Rugby World Cup 2027. And that's one of the reasons that I'm trying to get my Patreon page going. I've already got a few patrons. I love them. And by the way, you may have seen in this video that their names have appeared at the bottom of the screen. Your name can also appear there if you sign up as a patron. And as a bonus, you are in line to become a winner, potentially, of one of those books. I'll be giving away a few of those to my patrons. No rules, the James Small story. That is how you can become a winner. Or, as I say, you can go ahead and pre-order it right now. In the meantime, one of the other ways that you can support me is by clicking on the like button. In fact, you know what? Why don't you do to the like button what James did to Jonah Lomu in the 1995 Rugby World Cup final? Just attack that thing. You can also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. I do appreciate the support. It also helps my channel grow. And you know what? Speaking of Japie Mulder a little bit earlier, I did an exclusive interview with him where he spoke about his Springbok career. That is appearing on your screen right now over here. And no doubt James and Japie would both have been very proud of the way the Springboks went in 2024. Over here is a video I did where I wrap up the year. There's some good action in there. And we talk about giving the Springboks a final score on their report card for the year. Will it be an A? Will it be an A+? Click over there to find out what I had to say. And I look forward to your company in the next episode.